Hello again, friends and followers of Pikes Peak Trades. It is Wes, and excited to give you a fresh weekend video update of the main indices, ETFs, and some of the big names that I'm following. This is video 1 of this long holiday weekend. Hope you're going to have a great one. Video 2 will be focused on metals and miners. You can expect that to post a little bit later. So let's begin with the weekly charts as we usually do. And we're looking here at the SPX, and we're seeing another week where the bulls ended strongly in control. We're working in the lower part of this bull channel, and I've got an idea that I think that early next week we're probably due for a channel hit. So we're going to see that that's going to be, I think, right in maybe the 4,000 area. And this is the early part of minor 5 as I'm counting it of intermediate wave 3. This minor 5 wave of intermediate wave 1 lasted about 11 weeks. I'm anticipating that this could go at least that long. So extending all the way out into April, May timeframe is what I'm looking at. According to a little bit of what's happened in the past and the way that I think these waves are going to play out. Let's get into the daily chart here of SPX. And you're going to see with a little bit more detail where I think we're going to go. I think we're going to break out of this top channel here, and we're going to get a poke right up here towards this. So I'm looking at about 39.80 or so. I think we could hit that on Monday, and as we've been talking about for a while, I am still ready to see a potential minute degree 2 retrace. I think it is a small probability that we see it right away on Tuesday, although I'll talk about that when I show you a little bit of the short-term setup. So let me get you now to that short-term setup, and also in this I'm going to talk about what I thought was a great opportunity for a short. So here I've left this blue count in place because at the close of trading on Thursday, this top was in place and we saw a first leg down, a lower high, and a move down, followed by a move up that had yet to break this high. That was at Thursday's close. And if there were to be a short setup to play here, and I totally get it. We're in the midst of a historically strong by breadth and momentum bull market, but I thought we were a little stretched. And if there was an entry to be had, I thought it was at the close Thursday. So that is a potential setup that when I'm seeing that we're potentially at the end of a 5-wave progression, and I'm not trying to pick a top. I'm patiently waiting for a down leg, a lower high, a down leg, and a lower high. That's an opportunity that I took. I would take it again. It just didn't work out. It is an incredibly strong market. We saw this rail break. When this back test held and moved up, that's when I exited the trade. And I knew at that point we were probably set up to run for the rest of the day. And I think that momentum will probably feed over through the holiday weekend and then into Tuesday. But I'm going to leave in place here the possibility that this could still be possibly an expanded flat. We're still looking for that elusive wave. But I think instead we get this pop up, and I've got, again, that upper channel I think is in the 39.80 to 39.90 range before we would then be looking for any type of pullback. Now, just a couple things about the timing. It probably was a little short-sighted to think that we would get a sell-off into the holiday weekend. Might seem a little more obvious that market makers would want to pump us up on a Friday heading into that weekend. We're coming into February OPEX on Friday the 19th. I think that could be the time for us to see this minute 2 happen. So projecting early week strength Tuesday, Wednesday, and then probably possibly a slide into that OPEX where probably market makers are not going to let all of those expiring call options get paid off. Let me show you Qs, and we'll get here into the weekly on Qs. And we're going to see that the Qs have now moved right up into this middle part of the bull channel, and that's where I think it's going to run. I think it's going to run up through the middle part. I've already mentioned last week, this could be a conservative projection at 353 if we see some of the big tech boys get going, which of course we'll look at in a little bit. And then on the daily, like SPX, we're looking, I think, for the next move up to the next rail, and it hasn't quite hit it. I think we get that up. So probably somewhere maybe 338, 339 if it extends into Tuesday, maybe even into 340 before we might be seeing a short-term pullback. And I can show you that here on that Q chart. So I think we kind of move strongly up. We've got an internal fib that even projects even higher than 340. Again, it would have potentially the same expanded flat look if we happen to sell off. I would give that low probability. I would probably give that maybe a 10 to 15% chance given what we saw in the strength of the market into the week. Let's roll through some of the other main ETFs before I get into the names. And here we are with incredible strength, popping above, again, another upper rail, and of course it's IWM. And yes, again, it is quite extended, but it has continued to show the ability to bounce back. The only concerning chart that I would show you is IWM because we do have 2 lower lows and 2 lower highs. But with this as an inside day on Friday, that's probably enough. See, all it really did was pull that 8-day EMA back towards it. This is probably just a strength gathering move. Now, I do have the 1 top and the 2 down in place, but if I now get you into the short term, I'm actually thinking it's this purple count that is actually more probable. I had left this rail on there, and then right at the close, it had broken above. And if that will hold, then I think we will see one last leg up in IWM, possibly even up above maybe, let's say, 231 to 232. So XLF financials also incredibly strong. Now you are going to see that they are bumping right against, if I zoom you back a little bit here, right up against the previous high of a year ago. And so that could be possibly the location of a little bit of short-term selling. And if I take you into now the daily chart, that is a suggestion that it would produce a pretty attractive cup and handle pattern if in fact it was to take place. This would be an incredible buying opportunity. I think I'd mentioned this last week. I wouldn't play options here, but I would like some leverage with the FAS 3X bull. So getting into the short term here on XLF, you can see how really easily it closed this gap down from the mid-January sell-off that we had that was at a minor degree 4. It just pushed right back up through it. Now, is this a place where it could top? Well, I don't know. By the short-term squiggles, I think from this short-term low, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's possible. But we've been seeing how the extension is really unlimited in these waves. So there is no way that I would ever enter a short right here. The only pattern, again, that I would attempt is what we saw here. Now, that didn't work out, and I exited the trade, as I said, when I saw SPX and QQQ bounce off of that. But those would be the kinds of setups that you would need to think about if you were even thinking about shorting. But right now, there's so much money to be made from the long side, you need to get your headspace in that general direction. Haven't shown XLE, so this is by request, and I think this is a fascinating ETF to talk about here with energy. So going back to what I'm charting as the cycle 1 high in mid-2014, possibly into a cycle low, but I'm leaving open my primary count that we're going to make a lower low. Now, this is a little bit of going out on a limb, and there's definitely two sides to the argument here. One side is saying that, well, maybe the new Biden admin policies are actually going to create more of a supply-demand issue where price is going to go up just because of lack of supply. And so in that way, we're going to see oil and oil companies more profitable. And that would be the purple count. But I'm suggesting maybe that's not actually how it's going to work. And we do stay beneath this 53.36 price. So that is the line that is marking bull versus bear. And I do think, if I get you into the smaller time frames, that we do get up to approach it. So I do have us continuing up here in energy with the rest of the general market, but I'm not so optimistic that continues beyond past, let's say, April. But if 53.36 breaks, then I think we have to be looking for the purple count. Okay, so now let's get into some individual names. So get you back here. And we'll look at Apple's weekly. So Apple's weekly, you're going to see just punching right up again. This is going to be the sixth attempt to break out of this 138 pivot. And this is, I think, the week to do it. So I've got an Apple target just below 170 or maybe a little bit higher. And if I bring you into the daily, I think this week, you know, it was quiet and under the radar, but it happened. I think we got the fib to a minor 2. It didn't quite get to the 0.618, but it was in between the 0.5 and the 0.618. And I think holding that channel was pretty significant for us to then start seeing Apple work up. So let me show you that now on the short term. Right into here. And I think we got that nice bottoming. And if we can get that short-term count to break up above this 200 period MA, I would love to see a back test, and that would be a buy. And I call that the B-table acronym. You've got the breakout and test, bounce, long entry is what I like to name that. Let's now look at Amazon, one that's definitely going to always get some attention. And Amazon had a little bit of a concerning weekly chart in that we thought last week we had gotten the breakout, but then it popped back in, being down a little bit more than 2%. But notice that it held this lower rail. It held that 8-week EMA. And I think it just put in a pretty nice 1-2-1-2 right at this horizontal pivot support, right at about 32.30. So I am projecting that we have a low in place in Amazon, and I would want to recommend how to trade this is Amazon will give you the pullbacks. They will happen. So I'm not in Amazon. I would like to. If we see Amazon push up towards this 200 period MA, so let's say above 3,300, even towards this rail into the 3320s, I'm going to be ready to buy a pullback. Okay, I don't want to buy the breakout on Amazon. It is notorious to pull back. If you want to trade Amazon, your entries have to be excellent, and that's what I'm going to be looking for. Okay, let me get you through Microsoft just here on the daily. And Microsoft, just some nice high tight consolidation. So you're going to see a nice consolidating pennant, a breakout, and then just some more sideways work. I do have an alternate count if the market does happen to sell off. I think that's low probability. I think it's much more likely that we do see Microsoft resolve itself upwards to these targets, right around 250 when this chart comes in. So I think we've just finished out here kind of a long drawn out sideways degree 4, and now we're breaking out of what I thought was potentially a more bearish triangle, but we're up and out of that, and this is where I see us going. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Microsoft strongly into the 250s by the end of February. Let's keep rolling through some of the big tech boys. So let's get into Tesla here. And so Tesla, it held that key 780 level and then a nice bullish looking hammer. I still have that counted as a bullish 1-2 for the primary that you see here in black or purple if it's a little more bullish. And then you're going to see the detail here that if it does break down, I think it breaks down hard. So I would have a bearish count putting in the C leg, which would be a 5 leg, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So again, what I love about Elliott Wave is I love the invalidation levels for decision making. If you incorporate that with a simple moving average and some channeling techniques, you can see what we're looking for here. A trade above 833.42 puts the black count in control. We need to clear this rail and the 200 period MA right in the same area, in the mid to upper 830s. If Tesla cannot break that 833, then you got to give the blue count a little more probability to run here. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm not in Tesla. The uncertainty here, certainly if we do get a gap up and a back test of either rail or MA, that's one to jump on, because then I do think we have targets at least in the mid 900s. Let's go to Google. So Google just quietly putting in some high tight consolidation here. You're going to see that. Not on the weekly chart. The weekly is showing the ability, I think, to hold the breakout of this upper channel. You'll see that a little bit better on the daily, and then certainly on the short term. There's that nice Elliott wave. I've got that as an Elliott wave triangle breaking out, I think, next week into the 2130s. Even got a higher target up there into the low 2200s, which would just be incredible. But you know, nothing should surprise us with Google. So let's get to the short term, and you're going to see really nice triangle look on that. Just basically sideways since it's massive earnings power gap. And here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got the break, and I think that's the momentum to get it strongly up into the mid 2100s. Last one for big tech is Facebook, and I think I'll be able to give you a pretty good plan here on Facebook as well. Again, my plan is to try to buy pullbacks, because that's been the theme. You're going to get them, and until the market tells us not to buy them, you should keep buying them. So here, a little bit indecisive on what's going on, but I think we're gonna see that this pattern is an Elliott wave 4, and I think we're gonna get a resolving pop early in the week right out of this consolidation, and I think it's gonna challenge the previous pivots in the 278 area. So I've got this as a 1, 2, 3. I don't have it labeled, but it would simply be an A, B, C, D, E into that minuet 4. We popped above that rail just at the close. I think it resolves upward into that 278. I'm not going to chase it unless I can get a short-term pop and back test. Maybe an over name. So let's get to AMD. So AMD, I have it still working. I did MA, and that could get you a pop up towards 100. Again, the blue bear counts here on these names I think are very low probability. Let's look at Draftkings. So Draftkings put in that in 2 different places. You're going to see that here at the minor degree level, almost an invalidation of minor 1. You're going to see it again at this level. So a deep wave 4. So, you know, I say deep, 50% for a wave 4 fib is actually it's not deep by empirical data, but it is deep in this current market. Usually we're not seeing wave 4s retrace much more than the 24 to 38% fib. But I've got Draftkings here with a nice inside day, closing above the 8 EMA. I think we see it in the 70s soon. So what would be your play if you're not positioned? Watch for resistance at the 200 period MA. You get a pullback there that holds 58.64. That's going to be your buy point. So the theme for entries for me is I could let things run early in the week, but when they pull back, that's when I want to be ready. Let's get through a couple other tabs of individual names. Boeing, definitely one. I would love to see this potential inverse head and shoulder play out, but you're going to notice on the short term, I'm going to leave the possibility that if the general market resolves up, Boeing could actually kick up out of this channel and create a higher for a minor one. But if you see Boeing unable to do that, and you're feeling lucky, maybe you want to try a short attempt here. Just a quick short scalp. If this channel holds and Boeing doesn't resolve with the general market, that might be a chance for you to catch a quick one on the downside, potentially into that minor two. That is not what I'm looking to do in this market that's so strong. Just want to point that out, that those would be the kind of looks that you would be anticipating for shorting. Eventually, you're going to need to train your eyes to those kinds of setups. Like I showed you in IWM earlier, when you get a lower low, lower high, that's when you want to start training yourself to be able to make money on the short side. And I am confident at some point, let's say in mid-2021, we're going to have to tactically shift. So let's talk about Alibaba. So I've made some calls here on Alibaba, potentially one that's going to have it in a topping area here at this fib retracement of the big move down from late October all the way down into December. I'm going to be surprised if it can advance past that fib. It certainly could. I've got it in a finishing wave count. Now it would be an ending diagonal count here. So these are all counting as threes. That would put it back to test the 252 area. And that would be a beautiful, beautiful testing of this area here. That would be a buy. And then from then, we're going to see if it's got enough juice for it to break this rail to set a new all-time high. My primary count suggests no, but we're going to wait and see on BABA. So let's get to BYND. So BYND is one that just can wear you out with its periods of sideways going nowhere to grinding down, and then we get the huge big move. So is that happening again? Finally started to wake up towards the end of the week. If I can take you into the small time frames, you're going to see it moved above that 200 period MA. That's my trend follower for my short-term swings and day trades. If it can stay above there, you could see it run up into the earnings towards the end of February. I've got a target into the 230s. For me, I've got some more attractive things I'm looking for setups here. I think definitely a solid long hold, not anything in my case with leverage. So Disney reported earnings. They were outstanding, but that earnings gap got sold just a little bit. Where does it put it? I think it's in the last leg up into a primary top at some point in April or May. Looking on the daily chart now, this is a concerning candle. So you've got that bearish engulfing candle, and that typically does lead to more downside. But is it possible that that's just a wave 4? So that's where I've got it. It pulled back to a typical fib. If it keeps falling, and certainly if this gap closes here, I'm probably going to have to move the minor 3 to here, and 4 is going to go a little bit lower. But if the general market resolves, Disney probably goes with it. And then in that case, I'm expecting Disney to potentially get all the way up into the high 190s. Okay, so Virgin Galactic. So this one was all over the place this week. So here this is the daily, and this was the lead up to what we thought was going to be an important test flight for it this weekend. and that got canceled, and then it had a pretty nasty day on Friday. So where is it at? With the uncertainty here, I'm leaving the possibility that we topped at the intermediate level and we're putting in a double zigzag down. Okay, so that's going to chart here. You're going to see that top as here's your first 3 leg down, and then we've got your next 3 leg up to the X, and then 3 down. Okay, so if 52.30 breaks, then I think, well, then certainly 51.15, that count gains a lot of steam. But the bullish count says that this is just a very, very nested set of 1s and 2s. So if it decides to break back above the 200 period MA, gives me a back test, I think I'll take that chance. Okay, so one certainly I think the volatility is fun enough that if you can catch it and get out at the right time, you can certainly make some good money. Okay, last set of individual names, we need to talk about FSLY. So this is one that I was in, and on this day here, so this would be on Tuesday, actually on Wednesday, I had set my profit stop at 121. It missed it by about $1. It immediately began to pull back into a nasty candle. See, there's your bearish engulfing. I immediately exited, and then that led to 2 nasty days of selling. So this is a typical minor 2 fib. So far it's held the 200-day moving average. And you know, what would I be looking for? Is this something that I would play here? Well, keep in mind, it's going right into earnings on Wednesday. So a stock like this, it's a great name in its sector. I think if it puts one more lower low, I'm probably going to take a chance on it. This is the important gap area that it might be looking to fill. It's tested it 1, 2, 3 times. If it goes ahead and fills down around 97 right into earnings, that's one I might actually try to front run as that sell-off has gone into those earnings. Okay, Netflix. So a lot of chop here. And this is a little bit difficult to count, but you're still seeing, for the most part, higher highs and higher lows. It can still count bullishly. You got to get a little creative in here with the sub-degree counts, but this 578 target is still valid. We would just have a sub-degree 1, 2, a sub-degree 1, 2. It is a valid way to count it. Maybe we see that early week market pop and Netflix joins, and then probably one more pullback before it can get solidly back above this resistance line. Okay, what a week for Nvidia. So setting off this low here in late January, up with a back test. When that kicked off, it ran all the way to the top of its channel, and now a little bit of hesitation in here. So I do think with this, let me get back to that daily candle. With this is what you would call a bearish spinning top. It's indecisive. I do think it actually resolves down. So this is another one, if you want to try to test your shorting, as I've indicated, you're going to have to get good at it in the second half of 2021. If 611.65 can't break early in the week, I think this could be an actual shortable B-wave bounce. So I'm giving you one possibly in Boeing, giving you one here in Nvidia. Now, if it just blasts off strongly, then this Black 4 needs to go here, and then we're looking for possibly a target getting all the way up into the 650s. Maybe another outstanding run to look forward to. Okay, Roku. What are we looking for Roku? Possibly the similar setup. So do we see here a double zigzag? So 3 down to here, 3 up to here. Is this another 3 down? This is one I'm really going to have my eye on. If 479.95 breaks with strength, we're looking for it probably strongly up into the 500s. Otherwise, again, if we see kind of the pop and drop type action, this is one. Maybe you're trying to take a short scalp here. Okay, last one. Like to finish with Zoom to get that A to Z picture. And we're going to see a little bit of sideways action here on Zoom. Hopefully this pops up soon. It would be a shame not to be able to finish with the Z. Might have to get to the short term. I might have to just add the chart. Oh, there we go. So are we in a similar A, B, C down into a 4? So again, 443.75, if that doesn't break, this could be kind of like the Boeing, Nvidia, Roku. Absolutely look to buy that level. 38% fib with the 200 period 15-minute MA. Okay, so I think we're moving in to another exciting week. I do think we get some resolution upward Tuesday, possibly to Wednesday, but as I mentioned, maybe that OPEX slide. Hopefully this gives you some names to buy, create your list. You always want to have a couple short ideas in mind as well. As I'm starting to indicate, maybe take a couple shots here on trying to get used to what does a bearish setup look like. We're not trained that way from what's happened since March 2020, but it's time for us to start to get those pattern setups a little more flexible as we start transitioning. So thanks again for the likes and follows. Hope you enjoy. Have a wonderful weekend to everyone that's celebrating with the 3-day weekend and that day off work. Enjoy it. Have some fun. Get some rest. Don't spend all your time on the charts. And I'll pick you up again on Tuesday.